verbal riot.
Right now, the biggest problem with Hollywood when it comes to, because like you said, something needs to change, right? But
Mhm.
I think what needs to change is, you know, putting these weird regulations on film that they're doing right now, right? Like the DEI stuff, right? And I bring that up because I was looking at this article where and this is in the Huffington Post. Hollywood executives are deprioritizing diversity at their own peril.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, DEI shouldn't be a priority. Like, I get it. Like, look, especially me, I get it. Like I said, Hollywood, didn't care about diversity about in 2008, right? All of a
Mhm.
sudden they do. But my thing is, I don't think art shouldn't be governed, right? If I'm writing a story about a Nordic, people in a Nordic land, guess what? I'm okay with not seeing black people in this movie because it's about Nords. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
like if they did a movie, in Africa about, Africans, I would expect to see at least one black person there, right? Like I don't think making a director, making a writer have to include something that they originally did not include for the sake of you checking a box. I
Mhm.
think that kind of stuff is hurting film. It's like, look, I think diversity is great. I think we need more of it. I think as far as it being natural, right? In the natural way. But when you're telling company or studios they have to check these boxes or else, that's a problem.
We were just having this conversation yesterday. I mean, we're really just on a panel talking about this, and I think there are so many stories to be told, and I
Yes.
think we have to have authentic storytelling. I think it's very important to have representation behind the scenes, because that's how stories get told, the people who are making the decision. So it's not a diversity hire. It's like the ones who are actually, green lighting projects and bringing in a team in front of and behind the camera. I think there's every if you are a storyteller, you're right. Art shouldn't be governed. It's nice, again, like for someone like me who was always just the ethnic girl, um, no apparently nationality or race attached to it. I was like, oh, you could be this, or you could be ethnically ambiguous.
I love that term, by the way.
Which always, I mean, it's so horribly insulting, and just, you really have to have, um I don't know, it's not take those things personally and just understand, like, see the nature of change in this business and really where we were, because when you come from a place like that where there
Yeah.
wasn't a lot of space and the ethnic role went to anybody, who wasn't blonde hair or blue eyes,
Right.
now you have multiple platforms with multiple stories that are relatable to the individual and the human based on their experience. Like, that is important, because people identify in so many different ways these days. Like, if you have a
No,
story.
and Hollywood did need a wake up call for a long time.
Yeah.
It was like you said, it was like, they had their own checklist even back in the day, right?
Mhm.
It's like, oh, okay, we need a redhead, right? We need this, we need this, we need one gay guy, just
Mhm.
one. And he has
Right.
to be flamboyantly gay. He can't be like one of these conservative gays, right?
Right. Right.
It's like we need one black woman, one, and it was like this checkbox, right? And while the rest of the cast was just, just cast any white person,
Mhm.
right? Again,
Yeah.
cast many of them, right? So there was a time when that garbage was going on, and it is better. It's good, to see that now at least there's opportunities, right? But I just feel like right now studios are again trying to monopolize or monetize. I'm sorry, their progress,
Mhm.
right? Like they're trying to say, "Look at me! Look what we're doing!" Right? We're making sure that this character who has normally been white, right? We're casting him as a black person this time, right? It's that kind of stuff, right? It's the parading around of their show pony that they're trying to get a checkbox on, you know?
Well, that's why I think it's more important now than ever to be the people behind the scenes who are calling the shots. Because that's really where you're going to see the stories you want. Like if your movie gets made the way you want to make it, it's going to be authentic to you. And that's what it should be, you
Right.
know?
And
Yeah.
I feel like in this weird time, like, Hollywood looks at like, the whole race swapping thing like it's a good thing. And it's like, okay, so you're telling me you'd rather race swap a traditionally white character for somebody black just to, make a point, when instead you could have just told a black story, right? You could have told a story, or an original story. I'm sorry, not a black story, just an original story involving this black person. You decide to race swap because number one, you're lazy, right? And number two, it's easy. It's you don't have to. It's the you already have the IP, right? You don't have to work for it. Just switch, just swap them out. I despise that. I hate that so much. I know I went off. I was one of those guys who went off on the Little Mermaid, not because I care about the property, but the pitch of little black girls need to see themselves. And what pissed me off about that was, well, there's original Black Mermaid stories you could have told.
Mm.
Why didn't you tell the original Black Mermaid stories instead of just making Ariel black, right? So I think studios are facing this kind of criticism now. And I really believe it is starting to bite them a little bit. It's starting to hurt them because, again, these youngsters aren't going to the movies anyway. And they're on YouTube. And guess who they're listening to for movie advice? People on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. So it's I think these studios need to really kind of wake up to where their market is, right? Understand your market. That's all. Understand who this movie is for.
Well, again, that's why it's so important to have who you have at an executive level, because then you do know your audience. You are in touch with what's going on. You're not someone on the outside who's projecting something else that doesn't have anything that is relatable to them. So yeah, I mean, my advice and all that would be like, get involved, make stuff. you
You
know
know what? We've been saying for a long time, especially on Film Threat, that there's never been a better time to make your own movie than right now.
yeah.
There's never been a better time in history than to make your own thing right now. You already have the equipment in your hands, most likely, right?
Mhm.
You can make a whole movie on your phone, and we both have seen movies done on the iPhone. So I mean, like, I think this is the time for independent artists.
Totally.
I think this is the prime time for independent artists.
Totally. Inventiveness. I mean, everything we were just talking about with keeping the art of the movie alive, not only on screen, but how we consume it. You really need that innovativeness. You really need that innovation. People to step in and see beyond what was and what is, and really be able to. It comes down to just being authentic, telling authentic stories, and finding a way to do that reaches people.
And I feel like that was so great about the '90s, right? Like, because we came from that era of like Tarantino and Spike Lee and Robert Rodriguez, right, and Richard Linklater, and just all these great indie artists who all did their own thing and kind of just like made independent film cool.
Yep.
To the point where now every studio wanted their own independent like department, right?
Oh yeah, after Pulp Fiction, oh my
Oh
god.
God,
I
yeah.
mean, that was yeah, it became a trend.
That
Yeah.
that I mean, and it's funny because Tarantino gets a lot of shit, and some of it's deserved. I don't know, but I've met the guy a few times. I love him, and I want to get into film because of him. If I'm being honest, I think that the movie that made me want to get into film was True Romance. Now, funny enough, it's a Tony Scott film, but it's written by Quentin Tarantino, and that flavor of film. Because once I saw that, then I saw Reservoir Dogs, then I saw Pulp Fiction, and I was like, okay, this guy is the greatest filmmaker of all time in my eyes. Right, like he was just there was nobody like him, and then he had the romantic story, right, of the guy who just worked in a video store, and was
Right.
discovered, and made these legendary movies, right?
Yeah, his origin story. I think that was also the thing about the 90s is like people like us who grew up on those stories, we looked, I mean, that's where we saw representation was like the this person beat every odd, you know, they were
Yeah.
just like us working in a video store wanting to make it big and then here he
He didn't
is.
have to do the studio system. Like he bucked the system, right?
Right,
He went
right.
over their heads, and it was like this whole like legend built.
Yeah. Well, I feel like at some level we still want that. We still
Yes,
crave
we
that.
do.
It just, you know,
Oh
looks a
my
little
god, I would love to meet the next Tarantino, the
right.
next Rodriguez, the next, like I would
Yeah.
love to meet who's next on
Yeah.
that list, but it doesn't seem like there's that person yet.